Coming up, Mike Watkins of Team Rubicon on why veterans continue to serve. Welcome to another Real American Heroes special edition. I'm Oliver North. Today's guest is Mike Watkins. He's the heartland of America kind of guy from Michigan. He's not there anymore, but he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps in June of 1995, and by 2002, he was a meritoriously promoted staff sergeant, going up like a rocket. He was selected for the Marine Enlisted Commissioning Program, which is called MECEP by short for the Marines. I've met a lot of great Marines from this program. On graduation, summa cum laude from Eastern Michigan University with a Bachelor of Science degree in History. In June of 2005, he was commissioned a second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps. After completing basic school at Quantico, he proceeded to Naval Air Station Pensacola, Florida for Naval Flight Officer training and was designated a Naval Flight Officer in November of 2007. As U.S. Marine Captain assigned to Marine A6 Squadron VMAQ-3, Captain Watkins deployed on combat tours to both Iraq and Afghanistan, and by the time he retired from the Corps in 2015, his personal awards included 10 Strike Flight Awards, the Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal with Gold Star, which means twice, and the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal with 3 Gold Stars. He was a distinguished graduate for every military school he attended and still managed to get a master's degree from Marshall University. Graduated from the Corporal's course, the Sergeant's course, the Assault Climber's course, all of them. And with a distinguished record behind him, he's gone on to join Team Rubicon in 2015. And today is coordinating their support for COVID-19 operations in the Midwest. Mike, thank you very much for making time to be with us today.
Thanks for having me, sir.
You got it, buddy. Look, for the viewers out there who don't know about Team Rubicon, you and I know all about it, but tell our viewers and listeners about your mission.
So Team Rubicon is a nonprofit organization. It serves communities by mobilizing veterans to continue their mission while leveraging their skills and experiences to help people really prepare, respond, and recover from disasters and humanitarian crisis.
So what brought you to want to, A, serve in the Marine Corps to begin with, and to take and translate those skill sets that you've got to Team Rubicon?
So these are the two organizations that I found, and within about an hour of hearing about both, I joined and was all in. Being a much younger man, coming out of high school, I had some friends that were joining the other branches. I kind of razzed them, told them they should have joined the Marines, and that night the Marine recruiter called me. So it was kind of like right there in my face. I went in, listened to the spiel, and was all about it, and joined the infantry right out the gate. With that, as I was getting ready to retire after 20 years, I was standing my last duty, and it was a 24-hour post, and there was an article at the Marine Corps Times on the table. And in it, Chris Kyle's story about being an American sniper was on one page, and Jake Wood's story of being a sniper and starting Team Rubicon was on the following page. That night, I read through the article, went online, joined the organization, took the Marine Corps Times home, and I still have it today because I knew that I was going to be part of the organization for a long time. Then I was just lucky enough to have some good timing where they were hiring in the Midwest about the time that I was finishing up. So by July of that year, I was taking on what is now the Midwest territory and have been doing it ever since.
So give me a sense for the other disasters and things around the world where you guys have, not necessarily you yourself, but where Team Rubicon has been helpful to resolving a lot of challenges.
And I think the skills and experience that military veterans bring is just you've probably heard of this before many times, of bringing order to chaos. And it was a perfect fit for what we do. Some of the more noticeable ones have been like Hurricane Harvey, Irma, Maria, Dorian, tornadoes that come across the Midwest, all those type of responses. We've been able to step into the arena and bring our volunteers that have scaled tremendously over the last 10 years to help support homeowners really essentially on their worst day.
So how did Team Rubicon pivot from those kinds of issues to being helpful in COVID-19?
Now, we have a pretty strong leadership team, and the first thing we did was make sure that our people were safe. We started shutting down some of our in-person events to make sure that people were socially distancing and staying safe. But then we still wanted to have that type of impact. So Jake Wood and Art De La Cruz, our CEO and Chief Operations Officer, got together with some of the senior leadership team to try to figure out how we could still stay relevant and continue to be the neighbor that essentially our neighbors deserve. One of those campaigns was called Neighbors Helping Neighbors, to where we just inspired our gray shirts to go out, find people in the community that weren't able to travel, they weren't able to go to the grocery store, they weren't able to mow their lawn, whatever the case may be, and inspired them to go out and launch this campaign called Neighbors Helping Neighbors. Since then, we were able to send about 6,700 acts of where our neighbors are out helping each other. That was one initiative that we got into. The rest was then looking at the lifelines and where support was being needed. If you look at food banks and those type of services, typically they're supported by a few million volunteers over the course of the year. But as the national pandemic hit, their volunteer base shrank because people weren't allowed to go out, or they were worried about going out. So we stepped in and partnered up with a couple different organizations. Feeding America was one of them. Since then, we've deployed 284 different operations over the course of the year. We're averaging 500 to 700 people per day out across the United States. We currently have 53 operations going right now, primarily supporting food support. We have more than a dozen testing sites across California, and we've been able to support on the medical side in a couple different locations for field medical stations, medical relief in hospitals, and pretty much wherever the need arises, we're trying to go out and continue to help support as much as we can.
So in the Midwest, you've got kind of a full spectrum of the states that you're personally looking after. And it seems in some states you've got a full-blown pandemic, and in other states you've got, and counties, you've got, pretty much nobody around has got this stuff. I mean, how do you decide where you're going to deploy your assets?
So there's a couple different things that we look at. One ultimately is where there's needs that aren't being met. So that's a primary factor. Another is, and we'll compare it to the social vulnerability index, but really I don't like to be told no, and I've kind of grown up this way. So I don't like to say no either. If we have the resources to deploy, we're always going to deploy, even if it's a low attention disaster. In the last 48 hours, actually last 24 hours, a derecho, basically a strong line of thunderstorms, came across the Midwest. And we have calls in about an hour to talk about how we can send out teams to take a look to see if there's unmet needs or how we can go out there and help those communities that are needing it right now outside of the pandemic.
So as you might imagine, among the many viewers and listeners we have to this podcast, we've got a lot of guys and gals who are veterans. Tell them what they should do to volunteer with Team Rubicon.
It's pretty easy. It's the same way as when I joined. You simply go on the website, teamrubiconusa.org, and it helps get you from click to shovel. A couple of quick steps get you registered within our system. So when a disaster strikes, we send out a local team to go see and if we can have an effect, and we'll meet with the county officials and then determine our go, no-go. Once that is determined and we want to go out and support, we'll put out a call to our volunteers, usually out to about 450 miles, and then see what we have for availability for our members to then be able to deploy our teams and work through everything from heavy equipment to chainsaws to mucking out homes, or in other cases like now food support or the other lifelines.
Mike, 50 years from now, my great-grandkids are going to be studying this extraordinary period of history in our country. What do you want them to know about what you and Team Rubicon did to help our country?
I would say that I would want them to just keep in mind that all Americans deserve to live a life of dignity, free of fear and full of hope, and that we need to be the type of neighbors that we all deserve and all that we need at this time. That would be the biggest thing that I would leave them with.
Well, I'm glad I know you, Marine. I'm glad you're doing what you are. I salute you with Team Rubicon and all you're doing. I encourage folks to go to that website and sign up, volunteer, send a check, that kind of thing. If this Real American Heroes special broadcast has been informative or encouraging to you, take time to let me know how these unprecedented events have affected you and yours, because this is a contemporary history of what's going on in America, and they need to know. And so I want you to let me know that someday we all believe America is going to persevere and once again prosper. Until next time, remember, Semper Fidelis is more than a slogan for U.S. Marines. Always faithful is a way of life.